the Lord is keeping you safe and protected, and that you are pushing through during these really difficult and trivializing times. Hope that God is keeping you safe and protected. I wanted to share with you guys some prophecies. They said in the Bible, your young man, shall dream dreams, and the spirit of prophecy will be upon our generation. So I just wanted to share some truths with you guys based off of my observations, my life experiences at 40 years old, just from things that I've seen, things that I'm seeing. When we fail to learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. So people are going to be leaving the United States in record numbers. People are going to get fed up with the way of things in this country. America is basically ran off of a population or a group of elitists who control majority of the world's wealth. And when you get to billions and trillions of dollars, mentally, you don't believe you owe anything or any answers to anybody. These are like the movers and shakers of the government and the United States system. So if they choose to implement certain laws, of course, vote, use your voting power, use the resources that you have. However, you also have to accept that when people are in power and they have wealth and influence, they're going to do whatever they want to do. And for example, these digital ID laws, there's talks of Utah considering implementing the digital ID laws. The world around us, different countries have already begun implementing some of these laws. And even if in your mind you're telling yourself, I'm done with America, I'm fed up with the way things are going here, the economy, how things are going socially, the rising costs, I'm going to leave, right? And kudos to you. There's nothing wrong with traveling the world, seeing the world, getting different experiences. But what's happening is a lot of people are uniting globally. And the American way of doing things isn't just limited to America, all right? So you're going to leave this country seeking a relief and better opportunities. You're telling yourself it's better outside of America. I'm going to leave here, go to a different country, and my life is going to be better. What's going to happen in the future is there's going to be a one world ideology, all right, where a lot of these global elites are not just limited to conversations in America, all right? These global elites communicate across different countries, all right? Don't think if you're a billionaire and you have power in America, you're only sitting in the office with people from America, all right? That's foolish. These different country elitists, these billionaires, these trillionaires, they run global governments, all right? Each of these different pieces work together. You see it with the United States and Russia. One moment they're going at odds with each other. The next minute they're sitting down drinking tea. You see it with China and America. One moment they're at war. They don't like each other. The next minute they're working together with TikTok. They're working together for business. So all of these different elite groups are working together. So you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to leave America, man. America's trash. It sucks. I don't like it here. It's going to be better for me when I go somewhere else and I go to another country, and the same system is going to be in that other country. All right. And to some extent, depending on the quality of your spiritual maturity and intellect, you may even be at a disadvantage in another country, because if you don't speak the language, humanity is getting to the point where we're becoming very egocentric, very material, very carnal. So if you don't speak my country's language, you don't look like me, you're an outsider. All right. You're not a part of the group. All right. So unless you gravitate towards individuals who are open minded in these different countries and who embrace, you know, diversity, for the most part, you're just going to run into the same situation. you know. And once they implement this digital ID law, they're going to track you everywhere you go. It's going to be like a universal system. And don't get me wrong, it's healthy to get a break from your environment, to get a break from conditions and circumstances rather than just complaining about it. So there's nothing wrong with leaving and seeing the world. But I'm just telling you, if you're telling yourself that you're going to get away, this whole world is going to be under sort of like the same ideology, the same system. Socially, what I'm seeing is that a lot of the young men are starting to opt out of dealing with women, right? They see their brothers, they see their dads paying child support, dealing with divorce court. They see these entertainers losing it all. It's in their mind not benefiting them with the way the system is structured and set up for generations for men in their mind, these young men, to really get married. And in a lot of ways, it's it's true, right? Like biblically, you know, we're called to, unite with the one that we want to be with, unless you want fire in your bosom, right? And you just burn from lust. However, there is a human aspect to marriage, right? A lot of men are opting out the shit. They don't want to deal with losing their fortunes, losing everything they work for. And a lot of these women, what I'm seeing and what I've been seeing, they're thinking they got a lot of these guys sold up. All of you men are fucking dirt bags. You just want sex. You just want me for the ass, you know. So since you only want me for the ass, I'm only going to want you for the money, right? So that's why you're seeing a lot of these young girls with their ass out, titties out, they're in no way trying to help you conquer your lust, right? You go on Instagram, you're basically on a wide road to hell, right? Even engaging in a lot of that shit, right? And it's not like the girls are getting together and they're like, "Hey, ladies, we want to help our men get in heaven. I want to get in heaven. Let's dress more modestly. Let's just the way." They don't give a fuck, all right? So when you're dealing with a woman who believes more men are sensualists, they don't really have integrity, or they're not men of principle, you better believe she's going to tempt you with her ass out. She's going to be naked. She's going to have all this tempting shit on because she's already summed you up in her mind. You're already a dude that just wants ass. And they look at men like that, like you're like a puppet, right? So, like they say, a lot of this shit is just what they call it, thirst trapping, right? Young men need to submit to the Lord. They need to submit to the Most High. That's Bible study, getting righteous, living right, right? Doing what's right in the Lord's eyes, okay? When you're submitted to the Lord and you're committed to his word, then that's when you attract a God-fearing woman who will submit to you, right? Because you're submitted to the Lord. You're doing what the Lord is asking for you to do. But if you're not righteous and you're just thinking you're going to go out here in the world based off of your own mindset and mentality and how you believe things should be, you're going to be a puppet for her. Even if you're single, it don't matter because you still have desires. You still have a body that you're wearing, and that body has needs. That body is going to put you in a lot of precarious situations that your good mindset has warned you against, right? So you're not submitted to God's word. You're not doing the righteous thing. Expect that you're going to fall into a lot of temptation, and it's out there. It's waiting for you because a lot of these females has summed a lot of you guys up. All you want is sex, right? That's why OnlyFans is popping. That's why porn is popping because they, in their mind, men only want sex. What else are men good for, right? Outside of providing. Now you have some people out there that are like they want a provider, they want a protector, they want this isn't broad stroking. You do have some individuals out there that do believe in marriage. But what I'm seeing, there's going to be a lot of lust continuing where a lot of people are just sleeping together. A lot of STDs are going to go up because everything is about physical attractiveness, how you look. And that's sort of like, basically just sex, right? You see somebody, if they're attractive, you basically just want to have sex. You can't look at somebody and engage like their moral compass unless in terms of like how they dress and how they carry themselves, that's a part of it, but you can't really tell the quality of a person's character 100% because a person could be dressing modestly and still just be corrupt. right? So it's going to be a lot of sensuality, a lot of lust going on, you know, and a lot of people trying to escape the situation and leave the country. In my honest opinion, I think a lot of African Americans are going to turn on each other because they would rather side with the opposition because in their mind it benefits them, right? A lot of it is about social desirability, you know, fighting for you niggas, I look like the victim, talking about racism and talking about the systemic injustices, I look like the victim, right? They're going to adopt the narrative of the oppressor because in their adoption of that narrative, it gives them benefits socially, right? They don't look like a threat, right? So you're going to see a lot of black people, you know, sort of looking down on their own people, looking down on their own groups, because they don't want to be ostracized socially. They don't want to be castrated from, that social credit, right? So you're going to see a lot of black people looking down on each other, turning their nose up on each other when in reality they're in the same shit, right? So there's going to be a big divide in the black community where you're going to have some black folks who are going to side with the narrative of the oppressor, where it's like that whole racism talk is just you guys playing the victim role and you guys are really the problem. You're going to see a lot of black people doing that, right? You even see it on social media where a lot of guys are just turning their nose up to people losing their EBT privileges, losing their food stamps when it's really not a joking matter. But you're going to see a lot of niggas that are just looking at their own people like a joke, right? So, and everybody got a right to their opinion, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. Um, a college education is really important just for you to have a sharpened intellect and for you to have a sharpened mind and to be able to think critically. But a lot of these degrees are not going to secure you jobs, right? So you might have to end up doing the fucking job that you don't really want to do, right? You might want to be an artist. You might want to fucking, be a video game designer, or you might want to do, something that's fun to your spirit. But you're going to get out of college, you know, and the chances of you getting that job are going to be slim. So you're going to have to settle for a job that you really don't want to do, but you have to do. It's a quote that says sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to do what you want to do, right? So a lot of you guys are going to have to settle, and it doesn't mean that you're not good enough or you're not qualified. It's just the times that we're in, right? You're going to have to be in. If you do choose to get into a relationship, you're going to have to accept that if you're not serious about that woman and being in a relationship with that woman and you're just playing games, you better be prepared to be looked at like the villain. All right. Because a lot of these girls, these guys are coming from trauma, divided families, parents going at it over the economy. One likes Trump, one doesn't like Trump, people losing their jobs. So there's a lot of stress going on. So if you're not serious about her and you're fucking off, you're basically inviting yourself to be the villain in the situation. And how America is set up, the villain is based off of how you look at hello, right? So if you look like a grimy nigga, but you might have a good heart, you might, even if you look a grimy white boy, but if you look at yourself and you look like you could be framed as a fucking villain, you need to think about that shit. All right. America plays off of looks. All right. I don't give a fuck what anybody tell you. They care about your looks. They care about how you look. There's a lot of research done on this. So, like me, I know a lot of people are gonna look at me and be like, this nigga's a fucking gangbanger, right? I got all these tattoos. I got all this shit going on. So I have to be very careful of what type of women I select, right? I can't get with a broad who, you know, could easily put me in a position where even if I'm doing the right thing and say, for example, we get into an argument over some fucking potato chips, she can be like, oh, he yelled at me, right? By me looking but like the way I look, I already got one strike on me, right? So if the police come at hello, oh, what did this guy do? What did this guy do, right? So you got to think about that before you start getting into relationships with these women. How do I look? And is this woman going to use my looks against me, right? A lot of you dudes go for a lot of these girls because of their looks, right? If she looks a certain way, she looks like a poster model, you're chasing after her. If she don't, you're like, whatever. So looks apply for you too, fellas, right? If you look like a fucking criminal, but you might be a damn preacher, you know, or a philanthropist, right? It's going to be used against you if you're playing with these females, and even if you're not playing with these females, depending on the quality of the chick, if she's just a low frequency chick that's like petty, she can use your looks against you, fellas. All right, she can use your looks against you. That's why a lot of relationships. It's one of the many dimensions I believe relationships don't work because men, especially black dudes and even white dudes, if you tat it up and shit, and if you look like a banger, but you might just like art, you might have fucking Pokemon tattoos and shit. But to American society, you're the criminal, right? You're the villain. So you have some females out there, man, that play off of that shit. What a lot of dudes do, that look like me, and they gonna run with these chicks that look fucking wholesome, right? You got the tatted up dude, he with the fucking Girl Scout, right? And you got into one fight over the fucking, you baked the damn cookies too long, right? You yelling, the police get called and shit, and you already image wise at a disadvantage, fellas. So if you are gonna get into a relationship, make sure that girl isn't gonna use your looks against you, and you can't really ask her that because it's redundant. You have to test the spirit. You have to fall back and just see how she uses situations. Human beings are crafty motherfuckers, right? They know how to use things to their advantage, right? If I'm an attractive female, I know how to use this shit on OnlyFans and get me some money. That's what OnlyFans is. It's just motherfuckers teaching you human beings know how to use looks to their advantage, right? So if you look like a fucking thug, I know I look like a damn thug, right? I'm not a thug, but I know I look like that. So I avoid situations and environments where I'm around people who are super sensitive to looks, super, self-righteous. I don't deal with that shit because I'm already at a disadvantage with them. All right. So be with people who can accept your looks and accept how you look. If you happen to be the tatted up nigga or tatted up white boy, be with somebody who can accept your looks and embrace it and not use your looks against you, right? And because if that shit is gonna cost you, I'm telling you, because I've been there and done that. So looks matter for dudes too, not just females, right? They matter for the dudes too. Um, and sometimes just you just being a man, even if you don't got tats, if you swole and shit, and you got all this muscle, they can look at you like you know frame you as an abuser, but you could be a soft ass nigga. You could be swole as fucking. You're listening to fucking Little Bear theme songs and shit. But just because you're so fucking huge and you're with a chick, you know, that look like fucking little orphan Annie, you fuck up, man. It's gonna be used against you, man. Your looks can be used against you, bro. So it takes time for you to really learn a person. Take your time if you're getting into a relationship. Take your fucking time to really understand the humanity of the person that you're involved with and where their manipulations lie, what their limits are, what's their self-discipline, what are their where do they draw the line, right? That's what you really have to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? These are some things that I'm prophesying. A lot of you dudes, you're tatted up, you're sleeved up, right? You're super muscular, you're super masculine, and what you attracted to. You're attracted to the innocent chick that looks like the girl next door. A lot of you big buff thug looking niggas like the chicks that look the opposite. And what happens every time it gets used against you? You're looked at as the villain. You're looked at as the bad dude. Females are sensitive to looks too, man. In the beginning, they might feel like, oh, she's so attracted to me, man. She likes bad guys. Yeah, nigga, that's what you think. That's what you think. They don't really like bad guys. They like someone who can take the blame off of them. All right. If you look like the bad guy, but I'm a female and I also do bad shit, that means I could easily distract my shit onto you. Right? You're the bad guy, right? I do bad shit too. I fuck around, I sleep around, but you look like the bad guy. I look innocent. So I can just put all my shit, project all my shit onto you. You know, you better think about that shit. And a lot of you guys, this is a really, the Bible talks about this generation, how, people are going to get really hard of hearing. You're not going to be able to really teach I'm gonna keep teaching you motherfuckers anyway, man. I was in the Marine Corps, so you don't get more stubborn than that going to fucking war. So I mean, take it or leave it, bro. But your looks can be used against you, dudes. And if you're already a dirtbag, you got two strikes against you. All right. So if you know you look a certain way where society can frame your looks against you, take your time, bro. Take your fucking time. You're going to start seeing a lot of microaggressions. All right. In psychology, microaggressions is when it's essentially microaggressions is a form of racism that's really subtle, right? It could be, for example, you're driving on the freeway, you know, you're a black dude, a white guy may not like you, he may not fuck with you, so he's gonna either drive super slow, he's gonna either try to run your ass off the road, do really that's called microaggressions, where they do real subtle, disrespectful, inappropriate gestures to offend you, but it's not like really loud, right? It could be on the surface looked at like, oh, this is everyday shit, right? You're gonna see a wave of just a large wave of microaggressions in the United States of America. And what these are going to do is they're going to drive communities apart. A lot of people are going to get tired of being sort of like mistreated and disrespected, but on the surface it can be it can be perceived as everyday occurrences, right? It can be minimized, right? Microaggressions are really just sort of like subtle attacks, but it's disguised in the form of just like everyday issues, right? But underneath, it's really, this is 2025, right? Humanity has come too far. We've then got too educated to make excuses for our bad behavior. All right. A lot of people like to blame shit on, oh well, that's just human nature. This is everything. People deal with you motherfuckers in America and even in the world are more educated than all the generations before you. It's no excuse for disrespect. All right. Don't blame it on, oh, this is humanity. This is just how it is. It's bullshit. If you're disrespectful in 2025, you're just a disrespectful motherfucker. All right. It ain't no other excuse. You done got AI. You done got all ways you can learn how to be a better person, all kind of schools, all kind of shit. They even give you free money to be a better person. Your financial aid, go to fucking etiquette school, right? So if you're just insulting people still in 2025, that's a you issue. All right. So you're gonna see a lot of people using their race and using their privileges to engage in more microaggressive behaviors. And you're going to start seeing more of people just uniting around other people who look like them, who think like them. All right. If you look like them, but you don't think like them, you're going to still feel like subtly, outliered. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of communities are going to change. The demographics are going to change. People are going to start selling their properties. That's why the housing market is in the fucking flux, because people are just done with living in some of these expensive, overpriced houses, or they're not feeling like they're making enough capital or maximizing or benefiting off the properties, or they're not feeling like they're benefiting in their communities, or the kids in their schools, they feel like are not really thriving. So there's going to be a lot of shifts in society, a lot of people moving. The government knows a lot of you guys are thinking about leaving America. These other countries know that you guys are thinking about leaving America and traveling around the world. That's why they're implementing these digital IDs, because as much as they don't mind people coming, you're going to have to submit and they're going to still track you. All right. That's why they're implementing a lot of these different policies, because they know there's going to be a mass migration of people leaving, the United States to go to different parts of the world. All right. You're going to find it getting more difficult to leave America. That's why these passport and, sort of like bridges to go internationally, they're going to start getting more challenging. All right. They know a lot of you black folks, you black men, would prefer to date women from different countries, because in your mind, you're thinking, if I date a woman from a different country, maybe she has a different moral system, value system. Things will be easier for me. I'm tired of being looked at as the black dude, the criminal, the thug. I'm tired of the stereotypes. So I'm going to go get a woman from all across over the sea, and it's going to be so much better, right? And in some ways, you could be accurate and you can be inaccurate, right? It's nothing wrong with exploring your options. But what the government is going to do, and they're recognizing this, you know, because that hurts the government, right? That hurts America. If you guys are looking for women in different countries, you know, and what if you move to a different, country? So, and that impacts, the money coming into America, right? So it's going to be harder, for your woman to get citizenship, right? It's going to be more challenging. It's going to be more difficult, right? And that's not the only reason. You got illegal immigrants and shit like that, but they're going to mess it up for everybody. So a lot of you dudes who are bringing women from these other countries, it's going to be harder for her to get citizenship. All right. You're going to find another woman from another country. You're going to be so in love. You're going to be so happy. You can be like, yes, I found my one. She's not American and she sees me as a human. She doesn't see me as a black person or a white person. And you're going to try to get citizenship for her and they're going to deny you. Right. Because they don't believe your relationship is real, right? And don't forget, it's not just about the procedures and the laws of doing things. It's about the interviewer, right? It's about the person that's interviewing you, right? If they look at your relationship and they don't believe it's a real, authentic relationship, even though it is, you're not going to get that. She's not going to get that green card, right? So you're going to start seeing a lot of that, and that's going to put a fucking grip on your relationship because you're a citizen, she's not. So that already comes with its own set of issues, right? And then now she can't get her citizenship. So either you're gonna have to leave and leave your families behind, or you can't keep her here illegally, right? So you're gonna see a lot more of that type of shit going on. And yeah, man, Christians are going to get persecuted. As many people are coming to the faith, and that's great. But there's going to be a lot of persecution going on. There's going to be a lot of division because the world doesn't respect Christians because they don't respect you. How have you been living your life? How have you been treating others? How have you, this world is very judgmental. So if you're not squeaky clean, and even if you are squeaky clean and you're perfect and with a great life, they're still kind of looking at you with a side eye, right? But if you're a human being with a past that could be used against you, your Christianity in the world's eyes is of no value, right? Why should I look at you as a model for Christianity and you as a cheater? You got like 2, 3 baby mamas. Why should I look at you as a Christian leader and you used to work at a job and you walked away? People are hurt, the world is looking for any way they can character assassinate Christians so that way they can diminish the value of Christianity. It's hard in this world to be a Christian separate from your humanity, right? So that's why I believe it's hard. It hurts the church because we have a lot of great leaders. We have a lot of great speakers. We have a lot of great young people with the gifts of, really discerning and connecting to the spirit, but they have so much fear, right, of their past being used against them, or maybe there's certain character qualities that they're still working on. They have so much fear of that stuff being used against them that now we're short 100 new pastors and 100 new seniors in church, right? Because of some of these fears, right? So what it's communicating to the church, I believe in American society is that you have to be perfect, right? You have to be socially desirable, right? And if you're socially desirable, you're fit to be a Christian leader. All right. And I think this is unfair, because, and I don't think this applies all the time because you have a lot of people coming from prison and coming from really hard backgrounds that are very successful in the church. But I just think in terms of just overall, you know, a lot of people, younger people believe they have to be perfect, to lead in the church. Now, I can't have tattoos. I can't have all these different things, right? So there's going to be a lot of persecution, like there's going on in Nigeria, mass Christians being murdered, being killed, right? And a lot of them are righteous, right? But they're still being persecuted. So there's going to be a lot of persecution, and people are either going to walk away from the faith or they're going to flee, you know. And on a positive note, God is good. All things work out for good to those who love God. So it's not all just doom and gloom. It's just in terms of humanity and the state of humanity today and the things that I'm seeing, this is what I believe the direction is paving towards. All right. And a lot of this stuff is biblical, right? The love will wax cold, right? People are going to be lovers of themselves. This is all in Timothy. And I see it, you know, I really see it. A lot of these companies, these billion-dollar companies that are making a lot of money, right? Whether it's Louis Vuitton, whether it's, you name it, a lot of these white board members, they're going to put their people on. They're not going to put a lot of you niggas on. A lot of these $1 billion companies that are ran by these white folks, it's going to get to the point where races are only going to look out for themselves for that generational wealth, right? So I think this is happening because it's trying to teach black people to take care of your people, right? We have a lot of black successful entrepreneurs, businessmen, in the community. You guys got to start taking care of each other, all right? Don't look for the enemy, right? And you got a lot of white people that are doing some fucking great work. What's that girl? Emma's Jeff Bezos' ex-wife donating all that money to the HBCUs. They need to open a fucking building up after her, right? She's just blessing, a lot of the black universities and stuff like that. Salute to her. I can't think of what her name is, but black people are gonna have to fucking come together, man, and take care of each other, man. And I've been seeing different programs being implemented where people short on bills, they got different programs and things like that that can help support them. Um, Black people are gonna have to take care of each other, man. And that's what I'm seeing that the situation is going towards. They're not going to put your kids on just because your kid know how to draw a pair of gym shoes. Louis Vuitton isn't going to say, "Oh, let's give him a deal." It's not happening. All right, like black people got to take care of each other, man. I think that's what the world is pointing to. Like you guys got to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and it's a good thing. Hopefully, I can get some success. If not, it's okay, man, because I got my kids, and the generation after me is going to do better than me. So I'm not mad about it. And I can plant seeds, right? Each race is going to look out for themselves generationally. Right now, this is a generational wealth warfare, right? These white elites are going to bless these white children, right? And because they're looking at this as generational wealth, right? And the black people, we have to do the same thing, right? We got to do the same thing. I can't speak for everybody's money, but once we get on and we become very successful, it's so important for us to invest in our children. Our black children is so important, you know. Um, so it's just challenging, man, because once certain black folks get a certain amount of money, they get so disconnected, from like the everyday black person. It's like, nigga, I got it, you get it. It's like that's one thing I notice about really wealthy African Americans. They're like, shit, I did it, you could do it. I became a rapper and got millions of dollars. You go rap and get millions of dollars. You'd be like me. I became rich, off of streaming and really successful playing video games. You go do it. That's not how the fucking world works, man. You know, that's not how the world works. I might be successful in my field of influence, but that doesn't guarantee that if someone was to do the same exact thing, they're going to be successful. You know, Everybody has different strengths, and not only that, conditions activate different things for different people, right? So you got to embrace that. That's not a diverse, competent mindset thinking like that, right? People may do exactly what you do, how you do it, and may not, and may get like shit results, right? So we got to have more compassion on people. It's easy if, you know, I make $1 million off of fucking, doing a podcast, $2 million, and then the kids under me are like, I'm going to do a podcast like Randy. I can't say that they're going to make 2 million. I hope they do, right? But the audience may not connect to them like they connect to me, right? So a lot of wealthy black people have to understand that just because people who look like you and are going down some of these same paths and are not as successful, it doesn't mean that they're not good enough or they're failing. All right. We live in a very shape shifting, ever changing world, right? This shit is magical, right? They got scientists that are saying if you just look at reality differently, the fucking atoms and all this shit, the slit experiment stuff changes compared to if you don't look at it. So now it's like reality depends on who's looking at it, right? Shit's so metaphysical, right? Um, so I think black people need to develop a system where we celebrate not even just the youth, man, but even older adults, just the seed of creativity, right? Just celebrate their seed of creativity. It doesn't matter what path they take. If they got that hunger in them and that passion in them to win and to thrive, that can bless so many other people, right? So they don't necessarily have to be a podcaster. They don't necessarily have to be a rapper. They don't necessarily have to be, a fashion designer or all of these different things. Just have a seed of creativity in you and a spark in you, and we're going to fan that flame, right? That's where I feel like Black people need to come to. It's like championing each other's creativity seeds, Um, yeah, man. So these are some of my prophecies, man, that I see that been occurring. This ain't nothing new to a lot of you guys. So I know a lot of you guys came in and you left, and and that's okay. I appreciate you even coming in. But these are some of my prophecies, man, that I think that are going to go down, man, and that's going to continue to go down because a lot of us are not learning from the history. We're not learning from the history, and the history you don't learn from, you're doomed to repeat it. You know. Um, So yeah, man, I'm gonna do more videos like this. I was so passionate about speaking about this. I just loved speaking truth into situations. And it's gonna come to a time where people are not gonna want to hear the truth, man. They're not gonna want to hear the truth. They're not gonna want to hear your truth. They don't want to hear it. They only want to hear if people only want to hear truth if you're popular. Like if you're already popular, and it's gonna get to the point where if you don't have that social credit and you don't have that wealth and that fame behind you, your truth is going to be irrelevant, right? Truth is only going to be valid to the world if you've already sort of developed like social credit. I noticed that like when wealthy, influential people say shit that everyday people say, it's just oh my god, it's so profound. So some of what I'm saying might resonate with people, some of it may not, but my word won't fall to the ground. All right. Um, on a positive note, I do believe that a lot of the younger generation, the younger African Americans, are going to wake up, and I think eventually they will take better care of each other and support each other and love each other and have some sort of ideas that promote and sustain the community. I do see that. And I do see a lot of these younger people leaning more into roles of elders as they get older and helping guide the younger people. I do see that. I think the younger generation is going to be a lot more forgiving and compassionate towards their own people than a lot of the older generations where it's just really everything is bottom line. Um, it's good that a lot of people are turning to Christianity. And I think that is going to open up, an opportunity for humanity to give each other a little bit more grace, even though the powers in the system above are just this stuff has to play out. These prophecies have to play out. So as many people that unite is great, but there will be, division. And that's okay because as long as you got the power of God backing you, you can't fail, right? Even if you may take some losses, you may have to take some sacrifices. You might get painted as the villain. You might be looked at as the bad guy, but just trust that the Lord is with you and the Lord is on your side. All right. Like I talked about, problems are tiny from above. So you do have a cosmic presence with you when you sign on to being a believer. Um, but yeah, that's all I have for today. These are some of the prophecies from my 40 years of living, things that I live, things that I'm currently seeing, just paying attention to the media. I be trolling, man. I'll be trolling. So I'll be looking at what's going on and paying attention behind the scenes, stuff people are saying and trends. And I track all that shit, man. And I'm out here living too. I'm not just on the fucking internet. I'm out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Those are my prophecies. I'm gonna do a lot more of these videos. I just love talking about this. And yeah, man, that's all I have, man. Hope you guys have a blessed day. I appreciate the few people that tuned in. Peace.